Take your mind into the wonderful world of physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual wellness. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kinetic Hour. Conversations with you and guests. With your host, Kenan Wesley Mason. That's me.
More than 2,000 mental health care workers at Kaiser Permanente are walking off the job and taking to the picket lines. NBC4's Gordon Tokamatsu is live from East Hollywood with a look now at their demands. Gordon.
Well, Robert, these are Kaiser's therapists. They are addiction specialists and social workers. Among their complaints, the Kaiser has increased their workload to the point where patient care is suffering.
Contact! When do we want it? Yeah!
For the second time in 2 years, Kaiser therapists are marching and picketing.
We want better pay, better care for our patients.
This demonstration, attended by hundreds outside Kaiser's medical facility in East Hollywood, among their complaints, increased workloads and staffing shortages that the National Union of Healthcare Workers says is decreasing standards for patients. One social worker told us this is how she sees it.
A work environment that is sustainable for therapists to be able to provide therapy without burning out.
But Kaiser is already hitting back.
It's unfortunate and irresponsible.
With a video response on its website.
The union's proposals at the table have been overreaching and unreasonable.
The healthcare giant says its current proposal includes an 18% pay increase over the next 4 years, as well as extra prep time for therapists.
We have included up to 6 hours of administrative and planning time per week.
Picketers say that's not enough.
Northern California is much better than Southern California.
State Senator Maria Elena Durazo joining the demonstration, saying workers in this part of the state deserve at least what their counterparts elsewhere are already getting.
Right now, they don't have the time it takes to prepare for their patients.
In the meantime, patients seeking mental health services or addiction treatment may be wondering what to do. Kaiser had this to say about that.
Please know that we have urgent and crisis services available at all times. We are here for you.
In that statement, Kaiser says it has enough external contracted providers to handle the patient workload, at least until a settlement can be reached. Reporting live from Hollywood, Gordon Tokumatsu, NBC4 News.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Kinetic Hour. I am your host, Kenan Wesley Mason. As I clear my throat. Welcome one, welcome all to another edition. We're live streaming as usual. We're live streaming at a later hour. Live streaming and simulcasting on Instagram Live, on Facebook Live, and on Facebook Live, Instagram Live, and LinkedIn. There you go, LinkedIn. So welcome to all of you tuning in to the Kinetic Hour. Tell everyone that you know to tune in. Tell everyone that you know to go to my YouTube channels. And there's always two. One is right here, the Kinetic Hour. And that's Kinetic, Kennetic. The Kinetic Hour. And also Kinetic Fit and Wellness Info. Kinetic Fit and Wellness Info. For everything that's for physical health, for mental health, emotional, psychological, spiritual. Kinetic Fit and Wellness Info. Kinetic Fit and Wellness Info. And the Kinetic Hour right here. Subscribe. Leave your comments. Click thumbs up. Leave comments regarding the comments. Tell everyone that you know to leave comments. Tell everyone that you know to go back and look at other episodes, past episodes of the Kinetic Hour. Because whether it's one person or 1,000 people watching, doesn't matter. My voice will permeate, and it is permeating. Before I go to the clip, because that's an important topic, and I will get back to that. Before I get back to that specific topic, because that's going to be my topic for today. But before I go there, I'm going to go here because everyone's talking about this right here. So I'm just going to pull it up briefly so we can all take a look. It's been kind of all the buzz for the last, I would say, maybe 24 hours or so. Right here, the Donald making an appearance at a McDonald's in, looks like, Feasterville, Trevose, Pennsylvania. And he was there yesterday. He was there yesterday. And people can say what they want about the Donald as you see him taking his shirt off, or not his shirt, but he's taking his coat off, his suit coat, giving it to his staff. And he's there. You see him putting on the apron. People can say what they want about the Donald. I know I've said some things about him as well. And I'll continue to, because the Donald, as you saw in that clip right there, the Donald did go to McDonald's. And if you saw the entire time, I saw maybe 15 to 20 minutes of it yesterday. And to the Donald's credit, he was really, of course, polite to the customers. Of course, they shut the whole restaurant down. And so his supporters could come to the drive-thru. And he was serving the people their respective orders. And, he was doing his job. The Donald loves McDonald's. He loves McDonald's. You remember when he had the college football team at the White House when he was president? What did he serve them? McDonald's. When he's on his airplane, what does he eat? McDonald's. I think he said he wanted to work at McDonald's once upon a time during his younger years. When you're privileged, or when you grow up in a privileged lifestyle, McDonald's is not your average everyday meal when you're privileged. At the same token, when you've been deprived of the everyday things of life that the rest of society enjoy, you want to participate because you're curious. You want to see, what is this about? And McDonald's is probably some of the greatest tasting food that Donald's ever had, because it's the polar opposite of what he's grown up with, being privileged all of his life. So he loves McDonald's. He loves the hamburgers, the cheeseburgers, the French fries, because that's what he was serving the customers. And he was very respectful and nice to the customers. He talked to them, he was respectful with the employees. And he wished Kamala Harris a happy birthday. And he actually called her Kamala. Although 5 minutes prior to that, he was calling her Kamala, as he, was doing what he does best, continuing to tell untruths, such as Kamala Harris not working at McDonald's in the Bay Area of California during her late teen years. If it was in California, I'm not sure, but I think it was, and because she's been in Northern California most of her life. So yeah, Northern California. But the Donald was at McDonald's, and I think it was a curveball move for him to boost his way up in the polls. So kudos to Donald. He gets a W for that one because it was unexpected, staged or not. The fact that he was at a legitimate McDonald's and, you know, doing what he's been wanting to do. Obviously, this is like a dream come true for him. So he did it. So kudos to him for that. So going back to the clip at the top of the show, for the second time in 2 years, the employees in the mental health department of Kaiser Permanente are striking again, which started earlier today. Today was day one of the employees and other personnel in the mental health department of all Kaiser facilities here in Southern California, because they want the same treatment as the employees are getting in Central and Northern California. And they're unhappy because they just went through this 2 years ago, right after a 3-year pandemic. And now they have to go on strike again and possibly again in another 2 years. Personnel, social workers, therapists, whether they're, again, social workers or clinical psychiatrists or clinical psychologists that work for Kaiser, that are dependent on the pay of the insurance companies that partner with them, which is why you saw the corporate ladies saying what they had to say. You know, if you want to go on strike, that's fine. We got a crisis line that the people can go to. We don't need you right now. We got an urgent and crisis line that people can call if they want to share their personal challenges, if you will. I think it's amazing that companies or corporations such as Kaiser are continuously having these issues with having certain conditions met so the employees can do quality work as they've been hired to do. Kaiser Permanente is a multi-billion-dollar company or corporation. And we all know, and I've said this before, many hospitals and companies, health companies such as Kaiser, are publicly traded companies. They're on the stock market. So they have no real responsibility to the patients, as far as those two ladies in the suits, because they're a part of a hierarchy, which means that they have a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders, not to the patients. Not to the patients. Their allegiance, first and foremost, is to the shareholders. It's just what it is, and it's always been that way. And as long as Kaiser is a corporate foundation, or however it's termed, it's going to continue to be this way, where the first allegiance is to the shareholders, increasing shareholder value. Meaning that if we have to pay the employees less so we can make more, then that's what we'll do until they decide to make a decision to share their grievances, and then maybe we'll slice them another piece of the pie, give them some more of the crumbs on the table, because it looks like they're going to get an 18% pay increase from what the report said. 18% pay increase over the next 4 years. Over the next 4 years. Meaning that people that are in the middle of having their counseling sessions with their respective therapists right now, they can't do that. They can't do that because the therapists are on strike. So the patients, they won't be seeing their social worker. They won't be seeing their clinical psychologist for their regular sessions, whether they're weekly or bi-weekly. And so what do we do in these situations? People that need care for their mental challenges, or for their mental health, or if they've been diagnosed with a mental disorder, as they've been called, you always have alternatives. So many people are so dependent on having their insurance to cover the bill for their healing procedures when it comes to their mental health. And I talked to Dr. Shaler about this over a year ago, about people who have to have their insurance before they have any type of counseling. It's almost like it's mandatory for the patient or for the client that they will not receive any type of counseling unless their insurance pays for it. 100%. Meaning that they have absolutely no responsibility for their own life journey, and they're putting all of that responsibility and weight on the insurance company and the counselor, which is why I went into the field that I did. But this episode, I'm going to talk about mental health from a different position. And this will be in parts. I'm going to do this in parts. Because as I look for my paper here, I'm going to put a bunch of things on the screen here. Well, one thing at a time. But I'm going to talk about mental health. Well, I'm going to talk about one part of mental health, one component, or what's been labeled as a disorder. And I'm going to speak about this from a child position and an adult position, because what I'm going to highlight, has affected many children and many adults alike. What I'm going to highlight here, this disorder, as it's called, it's considered a disorder. And I'm going to dedicate this specific episode to my daughter and my sister as well, because of what I'm going to speak about. And the disorder that I'm going to highlight in this specific episode, and maybe the next episode as well, because I have a list. It's called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, otherwise known as ADHD. And many people have what's called attention deficit disorder, but in this case, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Hyperactivity. And I'm going to read some, and this article here And I pulled out one of my old articles from this specific one is from 2010. And because I have files of reports and articles, and all sorts of different information and documentation regarding health matters, such as this right here, ADD, or in this case, ADHD. And this specific article here, it says what causes ADHD, myths and facts. What causes ADHD, myths and facts. And this is from December of 2010. And what I'm going to read here is a list. This article here has a list of potential causes of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And I'm going to go over as many as I can in the time that I have here. And then I'll do some more on the next episode. But I'm going to read some of these symptoms here, or some of the potential causes. And then I'm going to give some potential solutions. Because if there's no solution, then we're just kind of going in circles. And this is how you have people continuing to complain about their symptoms, such as ADD and ADHD. You know, there are people that have been complaining about symptoms of prolonged anxiety or prolonged depression. This month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Some people have developed cancer more than once because of the information that we receive and believe, and that we've believed for, oh gosh, the last maybe 3 or 4 generations. And we're still having these issues. You know, ADD and ADHD really didn't exist once upon a time. Or it wasn't labeled as ADD and ADHD once upon a time. The symptoms were there, but it wasn't labeled the way it's labeled today. My sister, as I mentioned earlier, when she was in elementary school, she was going to a private school, Christian school, private Christian school, and she was diagnosed with having attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and they immediately wanted to put her on Ritalin. This was back in the mid-90s. And my mother, to her credit, she did some research and found that Ritalin may not be the best choice of remedy for her behaviors at that time. And her behaviors stem from not getting the attention that she needed at the time, because my mother had to take her attention and give it to my brother, who had been diagnosed with osteogenic sarcoma. So there were some challenges back and forth when it came to my sister and the attention that she needed versus the attention that she was not getting completely. And so when children have those type of feelings and they start to build up, they're going to share them in different ways. And my sister shared her grievances at a young age, and you know, and it created for my mother to take a step back to give her that attention, but also do the right thing and doing her own due diligence to make sure that she was doing the right thing by her daughter when it came to how she's going to allow the medical system to treat her daughter medically. And my sister's okay. She's just fine. You know, she wasn't put on Ritalin. And over time, because she started to understand why the attention wasn't so much on her in those moments. And even today, you know, we still talk about that today. And she completely understands why things occurred the way that they did at that time. So I'm going to put some things on the screen. First, I'm going to put the title of the article here. Actually, I'm going to put this up first. So here, what causes ADHD? Myths and facts. Myths and facts by health.com. And I'm going to put my reading glasses on. And again, this article is from 2010, December of 2010, health.com. Because attention deficit hyperactivity disorder symptoms like inattention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity affect a child's ability to learn and get along with others. Some people think an ADHD child's behavior is caused by a lack of discipline, a chaotic family life, or even too much TV. In fact, research suggests that ADHD is largely a genetic disorder. However, some environmental factors may play a role as well. Here, we separate fact from fiction about the causes of ADHD. So the first one that they have here is pesticides. Pesticides. And pesticides are pretty much in everything. All right, as far as all of your commercial produce is concerned, it's everywhere. You can't get away from it unless you grow your own food. If you grow your own food, then you're good. But if you're dependent on commercial agriculture, then yeah, you're more than likely you're going to get pesticides of some kind to varying degrees and amounts. But here it says pesticides. Research does suggest a possible link between ADHD and pesticides. A 2010 study in the journal Pediatrics found that children with higher urine levels of organ phosphate, a pesticide used on produce, had higher ADHD rates. Another 2010 study showed that women with higher urine levels of organ phosphate were more likely to have a child with ADHD. The studies suggest a possible link, but can't prove that pesticides cause ADHD. Of course, they're not going to prove the link, because once you do, then you have to start taking other steps publicly, which means that the narrative would have to change. Psychologist Marcy Rosenweg-Levitt, who works with ADHD patients in private practice in the Los Angeles area, recommends buying organic varieties of fruits and vegetables, especially those prone to high levels of pesticides, or scrubbing non-organic produce before eating. So pesticides, and they're everywhere. They're in all your produce. You can't get away from it. Pesticides, and typically you have corporations such as Monsanto. They use pesticides, such as Roundup. Roundup is the most common. on farmland, commercial farmland. You know how they fly those airplanes over the fields and drop pounds upon pounds of pesticides in the fields. And all of this poison gets into the soil. And once it absorbs into the soil, it absorbs into the root. And once it absorbs into the root, it absorbs into the plant. And once it absorbs into the plant, it absorbs into the fruit. And once it absorbs into the fruit, this is what you are going to be eating when you bite into that fruit or vegetable most of the time. And I've talked about this in some of my past videos in Kinetic Fit and Wellness Info, my other YouTube channel, about pesticides and how we have to use these solutions to literally scrub the fruit. I mean, you literally have to take a solution and let it soak in the fruit, and then you take a toothbrush or something, and then you have to literally scrub the fruit or the vegetable before you can consume it. No fruit on the planet should have to be scrubbed, you know, like you're scrubbing your bathtub or something, you know, like you're scrubbing your toilet once a week. No fruit or vegetable should have to go through that process just to be consumed by us as human beings. But pesticides is commercial. And when you buy commercial crops, this is what accumulates in your body, in your tissues, in your musculature, in your bloodstream. Pesticides. And they accumulate, and all the pesticides that are in your blood goes to your brain, because all of your blood circulates in all parts of your body, including your brain. So all these pesticides that accumulate year after year after year after year, and your body doesn't know what to do with it, so it starts building either fat to neutralize it so you don't die from the trace amounts. I mean, this is how magical the body is. I can't stress it enough. Because guess what? If you took a quarter of a teaspoon of Roundup and drank it, you go into the hospital. There is no ifs, ands, or buts, or maybes, or might be's. You will be going to the hospital. I mean, this is why they tell you on the back of these products to keep away from children and don't consume it, you know. And then they give you these numbers to call the CDC and all these other control places if you get sick, because they're poisons, pesticides. And we eat these things on a daily basis. They're on our fruits. You know, when you see these white film on your plums and apples and your mangoes, pesticides and other agents. You know, DDT was used back in the day, back in the 60s and 70s. DDT. I mean, these are chemicals that were used during the war, World War II and Vietnam and the Korean War. You know, we've heard of chemical warfare. So these are the things that are used. So the solution, as the doctor said here, buying organic fruits and vegetables. Buying organic fruits and vegetables. Do the best that you can to purchase the healthiest food that you can when it comes to your produce. Not that you have to be fanatic or stress over it too much, but do the best that you can, because I know that organic produce is more on the wallet by at least $1.50 to $2 more. sometimes even 3, depending on the product. But do the best that you can. Do the best that you can. And do the best that you can with getting the biggest bang for your buck. Getting the biggest bang for your buck.